I wanted to give you an update on several of the different shrubs that we did some pruning on earlier in the year. We'll give you a time frame here of how long it's taken them to come back from the pruning and how they look. So this is cardinal dogwood done in March, about 90 days ago. Now it was quite cool then, soil temperatures were cold, so I knew this would take a while to emerge. And now that it has, this is easily going to double in size from this point. We're at about 18 inches, and I had never cut a cardinal dogwood back this hard before, so I was a little bit concerned, but at the same time, I know how vigorous the dogwoods are. So we'll look forward to seeing this progress even further, maybe 3 times the size you see here. And now we're 1 month further along in the timeline. Look at our cardinal dogwood doing exactly as we had hoped, really starting to push out the growth. One thing that kind of caught me off guard is just look at how wide this shrub has become because of that layering habit that dogwoods can do. They just self-propagate. Now, something I want to point out on this, you could at this point start shearing this if you wanted to keep that dogwood a little bit smaller. Now, what I would suggest before you do that is just choose a smaller dogwood variety that doesn't get up to that 10 to 12 foot. So we're going to let this just keep going. And now we've added about 30 more days to the growth on this cardinal dogwood after full rejuvenation. Look at that, really stretching its legs. And now it won't be too much longer before these green twigs that we've got here, they're going to start changing over into that cardinal red color. One of my favorite things about it is that red twig color as we get into the fall and especially into the winter. So our cardinal dogwood, fun to show you the transition as it happens, the timeline from just a drastic rejuvenation down to the ground. And behind us here, we've got a dappled willow that we pruned back only about 12 days ago. Really coming on strong. But that's the nature of willows, they grow fast. One thing we did notice, I thought we were going to get more growth out of these front main stems, out of the latent buds, but we're not seeing anything there. So we are going to go ahead at this point and we're going to get those cut out of there. And this shrub is going to look almost brand new right away. And we should see 4 to 5 feet more of growth this year on this. Yeah, so getting those ugly sticks out of there makes all the difference in the world, especially on these fast-growing shrubs that take rejuvenation so great. And 1 month later on the dappled willow, wow, look at that thing. Yeah, you hardly even can tell that that had severe dieback. That's the greatest thing about the willows. And we've already seen, oh my goodness, we're pushing over 4, maybe 5 feet of growth on this. Look at that. Taller than me already, and now we're going to enjoy a lot of that new coloring on the dappled willow. That's one of the benefits with that new growth. We're going to see that multicolored leaf. That's one of the things it's grown for. Look at the coloring. Really nice. And that changes a little bit. It'll fade. It can be stronger at certain times of the year. The heat can make a difference. Yeah, you just never know with winter injury, but I'm really happy how this shrub has responded. And 30 days later on our Nishiki dappled willow, look at the height on that thing after 1 season of a pretty hard cutback. Yeah, I'm glad we had some of those canes die out. This totally refreshed this shrub. We had one other video where we actually took a dogwood out of this opening here. Hard to believe there was 2 in there. So not only did we prune that back hard, we transplanted that to a new location. Here's the dogwood we put in the ground. Looks like it's got, some wilting. This ground was really saturated when we initially put it in, but this was over 40 days ago. We've had a really wet spring, a lot of rain, but now it's kind of tapered off, and it's surprising how quick ground can dry out. This dogwood will take it very dry. We'll get some water on this, and this year is mostly just getting it to root in. And we're not going to see much growth on this just because of the extremes that we're going to see. And we planted this in kind of a wet area when it rains. This is where water will kind of stand and pool. Perfect location for our dogwood. We're coming up on a Miss Kim lilac that we pruned by thinning cut. And we're just kind of beyond peak bloom now. Some of them are starting to fade. But you can see we didn't get as much flowering as we did in the past because we took quite a few of the terminals that had flower buds, but still just a beautiful show on this shrub, and the fragrance was outstanding. But even though we took out some of the 2 to 3 foot longest stems, it's still a little bit too big for me in this area, so I am going to start shearing this plant, and the time to do it is directly after they're done blooming, and turn this into a formal shrub. But we'll still get that beautiful bloom every year if we time it right and prune directly after the bloom. And now that the blooms have finished, I did decide to go ahead and give our Miss Kim a complete shearing into this nice globe shape. Now this is going to become an annual event, as I don't want the shrub to get any larger than this. You can most certainly keep Miss Kim Lilac's pruned to a much smaller size than what I've allowed this to get to. I've worked on other Miss Kims in different gardens and landscapes where I've kept them in a nice shape with annual shearings. You know, even half to 1/3 this size. You just have to start the process sooner when they have reached that maximum size you're after. I think the Miss Kims are an excellent choice for that formal sheared look. Let's take a look at our Miss Kim from a distance, a ways back, and yeah, look at that nice uniform shape, globe. That thing's still up in that 8-foot range. I would say 8 feet by 8 feet right now, but we've taken off not only 2 to 3 feet thinning cuts and then another 12 to 18 inches. So we have brought this back into that's a shape, a size I'm comfortable with. And most likely what we are going to do then, we'll keep that sheared every season right after it blooms for many, many years, decades, that you can keep them almost in that same shape. And if you have time for just a few more quick examples, let's take a look at this Daphne, the Carol Mackey variety. And I was just about to proclaim that the Daphne was hardy to zone 4. I knew it was borderline this winter then. Finally, after about 4 years, this thing has done really, really well here. We have seen about half the shrub die out. We've got this dead growth. Again, this is an important thing to wait as long as you can into the spring, early summer for those buds to emerge. These buds are still just a little bit soft. But if you look at the advanced stage of these leaves compared to these, even though it looks like they're going to pop, I did end up cutting out those dead stems on this Daphne. You know, look at that. You could hardly even tell that it had any injury. This is just done beautifully the remainder of the season. Filled out uniform. Boy, nothing to complain about with that, how that turned out. Look at the nice golden color on that jackpot Weigelia. I refer to this as a sub-shrub. It just dies back every year on us. Sometimes I give it a little bit of a chance, but never had a stem come back. So we prune it back to the ground and just enjoy that fresh golden yellow color, a beautiful contrast in the landscape. And here we've got a black lace elderberry. Again, this is a sub-shrub for us, probably a zone 5 plant. I'm zone 4. We had severe dieback, almost no snow cover back here. But as soon as I noticed that small sprig that you see here, I knew this shrub was probably going to come back, and here we are about 3 to 4 months later. We've got just excellent growth. These can get a lot bigger than this, but that fits in there just fine. So a nice purple foliage, you get a nice whitish pink flower if it has enough time to set flower bud, which we won't. But look at that, isn't that just nice in there? And the royal purple smoke bush, another sub-shrub, supposed to be hardy to zone 4, but does die back every year. This year it did have some stems a little bit higher up, but we cleaned it up, and look at the growth on that. Look at the size, just a beautiful coloring, a nice contrast in this little conifer garden I've got here. I really love that purple foliage, just so characteristic and unique on the smoke bush. Make sure you check the description box for full videos on many of the shrubs that we looked at today. Thanks for stopping by Garden Hike, I appreciate it. We'll see you again next video.